Grace and peace be unto you all, my sisters and my brothers. But here we go. For the sake of my time, this is probably going to be my last video. Grace transforms us from being those who live for our own glory to being those who find joy in living for the glory and fame of another. The Apostle Paul wrote this: He died for all, that those who live might no longer live for themselves, but for him who for their sake died and was raised from the dead. We're talking about Jesus Christ. This is the Apostle Paul talking about Christ. His scripture he's coming from through this epistle that he wrote to the Corinthians was 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 15. Here we see the center of the great spiritual war that rages around and in our world today. Sin calls us to shrink our world down to the tiny self-focused scope of our wants, our needs, and our feelings. It really is true that the essence of sin is selfishness. I'm going to walk through this one this way. I'm going to walk through this one. It is really true that the essence of sin is selfishness. We hold our wants, our needs, our feelings, our dreams, and choices to be more important than God's existence. Our will and our glory. We ignore his existence. We rebel against his command. Watch this. We rebel against the commands of God. We step over his boundaries. Yes, we do. Through disobedience. We live as many sovereigns, in constant conflict with other many kings and many queens. Think about the times, the situation when you have gotten angry. How much of your anger has anything whatsoever to do with God's law or God's glory or God's kingdom? Think about that. I'm going to let that resonate with you. We tend to get mad at others, not because they have broken God's law, but because they have offended the law of our wants, our needs, our feelings. Only powerful, rescuing, transforming grace can cause glory seekers to live for the glory of God. This is why Jesus Christ had to come. He rescued us from eternal evils as well as from the bondage of ourselves, saving us from ourselves. Our prideful, sinful self is who we really are in this culture of the life that we live. Saving grace rescues us from our glory and changes us so that we might live for God's glory. That rescuing grace operates in you and in me today, totally. Whenever you encounter a biblical character or a person in your life whose goal is to show off the glory of God, you can be sure he or she has been visited by God. You have had a life-changing situation in your life. See, when you have an encounter with God, your whole entire disposition is going to change. Everything about you is going to change. Your way of talking, your way of thinking, the way you carry yourself, your behavior, your conduct, your attitude, on how you treat others, everything about you is going to change. Everything about your whole entire life is going to change when you have a personal encounter with God personally. Consider the words of David. When David, he exposed his heart. David says, Solomon with his son. He's talking to his son Solomon. Solomon, my son, is young and inexperienced, and the house is to be built, for the Lord must be exceedingly magnificent, and fame and glory throughout all the land. I will therefore make preparation for it. 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 5. David didn't want his fame to mar the temple. He wanted the temple to proclaim God magnificent, of God's fame, God's glory. Notice the evangelistic zeal in David's heart. He wanted the temple to proclaim God's glory, not to Israel alone, but also to surrounding nations around Then number two, even though you and I are not building a temple, we can have the same zeal. Our God is glorious beyond our imagination and is worthy of our surrendering every aspect of our lives to the proclamation of his amazing glory, of his greatness, of his holy, great power. Man, this is deep. This is powerful. I pray that you guys understand that I'm posting these sermons with you, doing something completely different. I'm just showing the share my faith of the gospel of Christ by being a blessing unto you. Watch this. I'm going to read it again before I make my conclusion. Grace transforms us from being those who live for our own glory to those who find joy in living for the glory and fame of another. God bless you.